Yo, what's up? It's your guy Dawson from Dawson Speaks and D&D TV. Thank you all for listening. I was just listening to this video. It was a Periscope done by Dr. Juanita Bynum. And she was basically talking about the Burrell situation along with the Bishop Eddie Long's passing. And many people, I guess somebody was on her Facebook page or something, and they told her, how can she defend Eddie Long, after he passed? And she went on this whole spiel about, she loved him during the scandal and all of this, and she also prayed for him as well as the victims. And then she got on the Burrell situation, and she was saying how you can't preach so hard to people these days and expect to get them changed, because people have gone through some hard things in their life, and that sometimes is the reason they are the way they are. And she really kind of talked in depth about some of the things in her ministry that people have shared, testimonies that they've shared with her, how they've been through, I guess, incest, abuse by family members, and sometimes, and that's true, that's how come people are the way they are. And sometimes the church just sees the outside of people and they really don't know, hey, why does this person want to be this way? Why does this person act like this? Why do they have these mental, it seems like these bipolar experiences every time you're encountering them? But there was one thing Juanita Bynum said that really got me. And she was saying that you can't preach hard like you used to preach, like we learned a long time ago. And my thing with that is, Juanita, when you say that, you're part of the problem, because anyone who's followed your ministry from in the late 90s up until like the early 2000s, before that incident happened with Bishop Weeks, you always preached hard and very harsh and almost very mean to people. And, I've heard back stories about how you treated your staff and stuff. I even had cousins who sat in your conference and said some of the things. I think it was one time you were doing one of your Women's of Weapons program, and you told the people to collect the money, get on their knees and collect the money like they're a dog on the ground. I heard all of them and I was like, no, not Juanita Bynum. And then we get to 2007, and then the incident happened with Bishop Weeks. And I'm like, well, man, why would he do this to a woman? What happened? Was she fighting him? Blah, blah, blah. And then I noticed that during that time, none of the people you preached for came out publicly and supported you. I think there was only one pastor. I can't think of his name. That pastor in Houston, Hilliard, Bishop Hilliard, I.V. Hilliard. I know he came out and said something. And I think it was some others who came out and they said, but you preached around the United States, and a lot of those people didn't come out and support you. And then I thought about that for a little bit, and I was like, maybe people don't want to get into it. But then, I remembered all the messages that you preached back in the day that were so in your face, so dogmatic, and basically it's so like you were spitting out venom at people. And I'm like, could this be a humbling experience that God did to her? Because now you're totally different than you were now. And that's why you're telling Burrell, through a Periscope, that we can't preach so hard to people like that because people have gone through stuff. But you're part of the problem as to why these evangelists and younger preachers think it's okay to say stuff like this, because y'all better look, it's not okay to say that. Y'all know people going into church shooting people these days. Y'all know people going, it's not only that, it's just, you don't know what people are going through. And so I think for you to say that now, you've made your transition and you're Juanita Bynum II, but you did a lot of stuff in the past that pissed a lot of people off. And not only that, when we look and say that Bishop Weeks is a bad man, we can't even say that because he's been married to the beautiful Christina Weeks for almost, some 5-6 years now. We haven't heard one complaint of abuse for her. So what is it in you that brought out this disastrous behavior in people? What is it in you that caused your ministry, this Juanita Bynum enterprise, this big enterprise that you had in the 90s and definitely in the early 2000s? What happened to cause that to not be as big or to collapse? It's not collapse because you're still preaching and doing stuff you want to do. But what happened that it diminished from what it was supposed to be? What happened? It's just, I look at people who wrote comments, and some people were real harsh, and I don't want to be harsh, because your ministry in some kind of way, it did, back in the day, I received some things from it till I started becoming conscious and I woke up. But we gotta think about certain things too. When you're saying pray for Bishop Eddie Long, the thing people had with Bishop Eddie Long is not the fact that the situation happened. It's that even up until his death, listen to this, y'all. Bishop Eddie Long didn't come out and say anything about the allegations. Bishop Eddie Long settled those allegations with those boys. And that made a lot of people angry, because some people say to this day, if somebody brought up those allegations to me, you would have to keep me out of court. You would have to restrain me not to be in court. And then not only that, up until his death, he basically fabricated this whole vegan diet thing. And that's why he had lost weight. He didn't even want to tell the truth about that. And so when you have people who are saying, how can you defend this man? How can you say this? How can you even preach on lesbianism when in 2012 you came out and said you used to date women, which was ironic for all of us to hear, because I know how hard you used to preach against lesbianism and your women's conference and things you said about lesbianism. So I think the harsh comments that people are saying, I'm not going to go deep into all of that, because, you know, you still have a following. In some way, you're helping humanity. You're helping some people. And, you know, God bless you for that. But when you talk about the Kim Burrell and that sermon on being so harsh on homosexuals and things like that, you were part of that culture, that gospel culture, those preachers who made it okay for her to preach like that. It's people like you who made it okay for these men to be in the church and to be, y'all use their gifts. They're homosexual men and deacons and pastors and people and lesbians in the church. Y'all use their gifts, but you deny their humanity. And so you have people who raise up and say, okay, they may have this situation they're dealing with, but they're still human. We didn't criticize you when you were on crack, when you were in a mental institution, as you talked about in your testimony. We didn't criticize you for Bishop Weeks being your second husband and your first husband is still alive. I mean, the list goes on that we could say things too. So I think when people are saying, what did she do to be so, that people are saying these comments? Oh, it's a lot of stuff that'll talk about, y'all. I'm not going to go into everything, and people know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But I think people just kind of moved on from it. And some people just think you're spiritually bipolar and they don't listen to you. I've heard a lot of people say that, but I still respect you at a point. But I think that this serene and peaceful Juanita Bynum, who's sitting on the floor and talking and everything is good and let's love one another, that's not the Juanita Bynum that those who have been in the church for a long time, that's not the one we know. And I know everybody changed, but it's kind of hard for us to just flip the script so fast when we know how you used to be. And then we have all these old videos and archives that we can reference to show people that the Juanita Bynum who's sitting on the floor in this white blouse with her hair pulled back blonde and, you know, the makeup beat perfectly and all this kind of stuff, that's not the Juanita Bynum we knew back then. And yeah, I know people can change. And, you know, I'm glad you have changed. You say you have. So that's all I can do is take you as your word. But, you know, I remember, you know, like I said, years ago, sitting up in a church where you visited down here, a church I used to attend. And, you know, you can really get the crowd going. You're very charismatic. But at the end, man, you hold the offering service at the end, too. I mean, collecting offering with you is almost, you know, 30 to 40 minutes. Now, I've been there when you browbeated people about giving and how if you want this and some of your stuff is held up because of this and this right here, and you come out with the envelopes and then you are the prophetess or preacher who has the line. There's some of you who can give $1,000. There's some of you who can give who don't have $1,000. You just got 700. You can give that. There's some of you who can give 5. Some of you can't give the 5. You can give 4. You can give 3. You know, I've been in services where you've done that. So when I hear you talk about this stuff and how we're not supposed to do this, I think we're living in an age now where people are just tired of being spiritually abused. They're tired of being controlled by people who, in essence, don't have their life together either. They're tired of being controlled by people who say they're prophetess and prophets. And then when stuff happen in your life, it's like, well, people looking like you didn't see that coming. You're supposed to be a prophet. You didn't see that happen. You're supposed to be a prophetess. You said Hillary Clinton was going to be president of the United States. How'd you miss that, Prophet Karn? How'd you miss that? That's what people are looking at. Are you really men and women of God? Or is this just the biggest business scam in history just to get up here and be some traveling evangelist going from town to town, tingling people's ears, telling them what they want to hear. And when you leave that town, the true men and women of God, the true ministers who are in it because they sleep, eat, and breathe ministry, it's in their blood, it's in their system to really help people. Those are the ones who are overlooked. Those are the ones who don't get to minister at the big conferences. Those are the ones who really need help to pay off their churches, because their churches also act as a homeless shelter at times, also act as a soup kitchen because they feed the homeless, also acts as a counseling center because they have to counsel the people who've been spiritually abused at the church, people who have been molested at the church, people who have been manipulated by leaders, men and women in the church, taken advantage of by people. Those people don't even get the attention or the recognition. But if y'all listen to this and you're true men and women of God and people who have the heart of God to help people, and it's never been about the money for you because you know God will supply all your needs according to his riches and glory, I'm talking to you. Don't worry about the people who seem like they're doing well in the public eye, because at the end of the day, God has his hands on you. Let it say, I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor seed beg of bread. Come on. God got his hands on you. God will fight your battles. God will take care of you and your lineage. So that's all I want to say on this. Let's just be real. If you're going to be real all the way. If you're going to be fake all the way, because now people can tell the difference. And this is not 1972 and it's not 1917. It's 2017 and we're awake.